For me, looking back has always been a massive guide for moving forward. From the very early days of film, brilliant ideas have created magic tricks in front of the lens to assist in telling fantastic stories. So as always, we're going to take a look at some amazing examples of that. We're going to show Josh and Justin a clip and give them and you a chance to guess how it was done before I tell you. But before we do, you may or may not know that we are currently in the midst of a global water crisis. Currently, over 703 million people on the planet don't have access to safe drinking water. What's even more wild is that diseases from this dirty water kill more people every year than all forms of violence. But the good news is we can actually do something about it, which is why we're working with Charity Water to raise the funds for a full water project. I'll talk more about that at the end of the episode, but if you are willing to donate just $1, together we can genuinely change lives. So check the link below and let's make a difference together. So as always, I got some clips there for you. You're going to watch the clip and try to tell me how you think they accomplished that effect with the technology they had at that time.
Okay. And then spacebar.
Spacebar.
Yes. Go.
That's it. Yeah.
Going. Oh, look at him go.
Wow.
Oh, he's definitely, he looks like he's on wires. He's not actually touching the ground. Look at him.
God, that would be a dangerous stunt.
Oh, that is so good. I think he's on wires.
Yeah, it feels like he's on a wire for those wides. Just being Pinocchio down.
Okay, obviously, I know how ridiculous this looks. I laugh too, but the idea is still really fun and an impressive stunt. So much could have gone wrong here. And it is a tough problem to solve, especially in 1978. And the solution allowed them to stay in camera, keep his shadow on the ground, and overall come up with something that was pretty convincing. Really, the main problem here is the actor's physicality. And this technique would go on to be perfected and used in modern films like The Wolfman, Underworld, and several Marvel films. In both The Wolfman and Underworld, something called a magic carpet was used, which was a carpet being dragged by a vehicle while an actor or stunt person ran on top, giving them the illusion of impossible speed. It's basically the same idea as walking on those moving sidewalks at the airport. But we aren't seeing the floor with those like we did with Superman, which is where this comes in. You're getting the actor's feet while all the same speed is happening. This one is very similar to the original Superman idea, but includes cables on the back and front of the talent to help propel them forward and give more of that natural look overall. And this effect is excellent and a great example of why I love the lessons from classic films. The same idea in camera, but perfected for a truly amazing result.
1970, is it really that old? That is shockingly not bad for 1978.
Again, haven't seen it. But it feels like they shot this aerial footage on a helicopter back in the day.
I say rear projection and wire work.
And then they just projected it behind them and they just shot this on it.
Richard Donner's film used several techniques to make Superman fly, including wire work when you see the Man of Steel taking off and land, some blue screen work playing Reeves in the shot with miniatures, which his suit was too close to the blue screen, so they had wardrobe make a more turquoise version that wouldn't interfere with the blue screen, which they would then put back to its proper color later on. And the most convincing technique, which used what they coined as Zoptics, which was basically front projection with some improvements made by an effects genius. On its own, front projection is amazing. This uses a special screen called the Scotchlight, which was made by 3M. It's made up of tiny glass beads that reflect light back at almost 1,000 times the original brightness, but only in the exact direction it received that light from. To make sure the camera is receiving that amplified luminance, a two-way mirror called a beam splitter is placed in front of the camera with the mirror side facing the screen. Then a projector shoots its image into the mirror side, which then reflects onto the screen and gets bounced back 1,000 times its intensity to the camera's lens, which is filming the screen through the transparent side of that two-way mirror. What made this specific setup special is that the projector, the camera, and the beam splitter were all mounted on a rig together that could be synced and operated in unison. So Reeves was never moving, the rig was. And to make it seem like Reeves was flying toward or away from the camera, both the projector and the camera were fitted with zoom lenses that were synced to be remotely controlled. This way they could simultaneously zoom the camera and projector Terminator lenses to make the projected image appear as though it isn't moving, while the zoom of the camera scales the actor. And they're also adjusting for the light loss of the zoom by syncing the iris along with all of that as well. Moving the camera instead of the actor also meant they could keep the actor as close to the screen as possible, which allowed them to avoid fringing that would give that black outline to an actor when moved far away from the screen, which you've seen in other classic films or TV. It also allowed them to avoid the need for wires, as Reeves could be suspended on a motionless platform, which was a mold that fit perfectly to him, and his clothes would then fit over that mold. And this was mounted on a pole that was coming out of the screen, so it was always completely hidden from the camera. Then, as they locked in their moves, they were able to record those moves and play them identically over and over again through their motion control. It's kind of like the first kernel of an idea toward virtual production.
This is the first Terminator?
This is the 80s, right? 84?
84. Wait, what?
Yeah, what would they do in 84?
Dude, that looks awesome.
Oh, wow.
Okay, my guess is his arm is like down, and that thing that's punching through isn't actually, it's his arm. It's like I don't know, like a battering ram or something.
Part of me feels like it's like a fake arm almost on the side of him that can just drive through.
In 1984, James Cameron released his second feature film, with the first being this gem from 2 years earlier, Piranha 2: The Spawning. So it's not a big shock that his second outing was given a low budget of $6.4 million, which would be around $19 million today. But what is shocking is what they were able to accomplish with the Terminator while essentially being a low-budget guerrilla production. To put it into perspective, some other films released that same year were Gremlins with a budget of $11 million, Beverly Hills Cop with $13 million, and Temple of Doom with $28 million. Which also, what an insane year for movies. But that budget just meant they had to be even more inventive, and this film is packed with so many clever gags, one of my favorites being this shot. And the guys pretty much got it right here. They used a prop arm on a pneumatic ram. The problem with this approach is that the ram was too big to be moved. It's a large piece of equipment that had to remain stationary, so instead of moving the car, they moved the background. To do this, they mounted 50 feet of false brick wall on the side of a semi that would pass by the car just at the right moment. Once in frame, the team would fire the ram, Arnold would act the punch, and they'd have their shot. And the final result works incredibly well. Cameron was absolutely right. How the fist goes through the windshield seems impossible for a human and pushes the idea that Arnold is a cyborg. We've got 2 more shots from the Terminator and one from Shape of Water next, but before we do that, just as the visuals will make or break your shot, scene, film, the right music is a massively important element to your project. But the hard part about that is finding it. But Musicbed is constantly working towards making that easier on us so we can just get to the creative a whole lot faster. How curated Musicbed is for filmmakers and how high their standards have been helped since the beginning, of course, but now they have this AI-powered search by song feature. With every project, I'm also creating some kind of a playlist in Spotify that represents the tone of that piece. All of that, though, is copyrighted music that I cannot use, but I can grab a link to that song, come here into Musicbed, paste it, and Musicbed will give me a bunch of tracks that fit that same vibe. And of course, I could just type the name of the song here as well, like The Terminator, and here's what I get back. See what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? We also have Quick Preview, which will take you right to the heart of the song, giving a sense of it very quickly. So if you're a creator of any kind that wants better music that's a whole lot easier to find, make the switch to Musicbed and start your 14-day free trial today. Link for that in the notes below.
The electricity doesn't look bad still.
There you go. Yeah, let's do it for real. I mean, it's James Cameron. I don't know. Some sort of miniature underwater fetish. I don't know. Let's just do it underwater. Jim, the scene is not in the water. We're gonna do it in the water.
My guess would be they just did it.
Feels like Tony Hawk when he did the 900. He just crushed it for real.
This one is really simple. There's no massive surprise here other than the simplicity of how it was done. Apparently, this final shot was an idea that Cameron came up with on the spot. To make it all work, the legend that is Stan Winston and his team built the crusher press out of foam core and painted it silver, then built the head that gets crushed out of tinfoil and foam core with a bulb for the eye, which they dimmed to show the machine dying. And the smoke you see here is just someone blowing cigarette smoke into that area. So a last-minute idea, built DIY for the final villain moment of one of the most iconic films of all time.
And it's in the film, and it works. And with all of this stuff that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the sculptures that take forever, here's this close-up image, this final close-up image that is basically foam core and tin foil and cigarette smoke. And it's the last image of the Terminator in the movie.
Another really great example of them doing what they had to do was here. This moment when Kyle's dead body is zipped up in a body bag. They didn't have that prop, so Cameron ran to his car, grabbed his vinyl suit bag, and that's what you see in this shot. But maybe my favorite story involves no permits and them almost getting in trouble with the police, but I'll let the filmmakers explain this one.
We did it on a Sunday where
we literally went out to a location.
It was out in the middle of nowhere.
We were setting up all day for the right light. Not one car had driven by. The entire time we were setting up.
We're 5 minutes away from shooting.
And we literally had the tripod just a few feet into the pavement.
I have Polly drive the Jeep on out and drive away.
And just as we were about to roll,
a little dot of a car starts to show up, and Jim says, wouldn't you know, it's probably a cop.
A cop car pulls up. And we were completely unprepared.
We didn't have a permit or anything.
Excuse me, you're going to have to move your equipment off the road, and by the way, where's your film permit?
My dad turns around and says to him, well, my son, it's his film school project.
A UCLA student film, and we just needed one shot, and then we would get out of there.
And I just stood in the background, smiled, gave him a little,
And the highway patrolman thought, well, a little thing like this and helping out your son do a film, it's fine. He understood film school and all of that.
The policeman was very cooperative and said, okay, he would go hold traffic.
Meanwhile, I'm about to pee in my pants because I'm like, they're blaming it on me.
And he left, and we shot it and went home.
And that was actually the last shot of the film.
Oh, it's the fish f***ing movie.
My guess is that they built a tank with a fake Sally Hawkins dummy, similar to the female in the car in The Night of the Living Hunter at the bottom of the lake.
Immediately, my guess is this is done practically, and it's done with lighting, and they're actually just having that stuff float on like strings or rigs, not underwater, yeah.
The Shape of Water is a modern film, but I added this shot in because the practical classic ideas mixed with the modern is a perfect example of why I love all of this. Of course, The Shape of Water is an excellent film that took home 4 Academy Awards, including Best Director and Best Picture, making it only the second fantasy film to win Best Picture after The Return of the King. But here we get this great opening to the film featuring an apartment submerged underwater. This was accomplished using an in-camera effect called Dry for Wet. The actors and props were suspended on wires, filmed with high contrast lighting and fans, then they flooded the sound stage with haze to give that underwater atmosphere. After that, CGI was used to add more floating props, water, bubbles, and floating hair to further sell the illusion. They also relied on powerful overhead projectors that ran a pre-rendered high-contrast animated black and white pattern. This gave the illusion of caustic lighting that does appear underwater. And with all these practical and computer-generated assets mixed, you get this beautiful sequence, which again is the perfect tap-off of my point. The marriage of the old and the new, resulting in more of that classic magic on screen. For me, all of this is inspiration and ideas that we can take and build on for our own projects. From getting inventive to creating methods that build on the past, or the encouragement to go full DIY and make an epic final shot out of tinfoil, foam core, and cigarette smoke. Taking the drive, passion, and willingness to just make it work is the most beneficial thing we can take from all of this, I think. But that's it for today, and as I mentioned up front, we are working with Charity Water to provide clean water for communities, schools, school or health clinic. That could mean drilling a well, rainwater harvesting, installing biosand filters, or other means to ensure people have access to clean water. To achieve this goal, we're aiming to raise $10,000, which I know is a lot of money, so we're also teaming up with our sister channel, Variant, with each of us aiming to hit $5,000 toward that $10,000 group goal. Water is the very least a person can ask for, and if everyone that watched this episode donated just $1, we'd be able to help build multiple wells and bring that clean water to people who desperately need it. So please take a second and look at the link below if you can donate. And as always, until next time, don't forget to write, shoot, edit, repeat.